You have a deadline in 3 days. You know exactly what needs to get done. And yet, right now, you are doing almost anything else. Cleaning a drawer that didn't need cleaning. Watching one more video. Telling yourself you'll start after lunch. But the real answer for why you do this is far stranger than laziness. It was first captured, almost by accident, in a small room with a child, a marshmallow, and a bell. In the late 1960s, a psychologist named Walter Mischel ran a now famous experiment at Stanford University. He sat young children alone in a plain room with one marshmallow on a plate in front of them. He gave them a simple choice. Eat the marshmallow now, or wait alone in the room for several minutes and receive a second marshmallow as a reward for waiting. Some children grabbed it immediately. Others squirmed, covered their eyes, sat on their hands, sang quietly to themselves, doing anything they could to resist. Years later, Mischel followed up with these same children as teenagers. The ones who managed to wait tended to show stronger academic performance and better emotional coping skills than the ones who couldn't. The experiment became a symbol of willpower. Wait, and you succeed. Grab, and you struggle. But here's the question almost nobody asked at the time. Why is waiting so hard in the first place? Your brain isn't broken when it reaches for the marshmallow. It's just following an ancient rule book, written long before deadlines, savings accounts, or diet plans existed. Think about your ancestors for a moment, foraging across an unpredictable landscape tens of thousands of years ago. If they found food, eating it immediately made sense. Tomorrow was never guaranteed. Another animal might steal it, it might spoil, a storm might strike, a rival group might raid the camp. In that world, an immediate reward was a certain reward. A future reward was a gamble. So evolution built you with a strong built-in bias called present bias. Your brain doesn't treat all rewards equally across time. It treats a reward available right now as dramatically more valuable than the exact same reward available even a short while later. An economist named George Ainsley gave this pattern a name: hyperbolic discounting. He found that people don't discount future rewards steadily and evenly the way a simple interest rate would. Instead, the value of a delayed reward drops off sharply the moment any alternative becomes available right now. Offer someone $100 in a year versus $110 in a year and a week, and they'll usually wait the extra week. But offer them $100 today versus $110 tomorrow, and suddenly today's smaller reward often wins. Same math, same one-day gap, wildly different decision. Why would your brain behave so inconsistently? Because your brain isn't running one unified decision-making system. It's running two, often in quiet conflict with each other. Have you ever noticed how procrastination doesn't feel like a rational choice while it's happening? It feels more like a pull, an urge, almost outside your control. That's because it largely is. Neuroscientists have found that immediate rewards activate older, more primitive brain circuits tied to emotion and instant gratification. The same circuitry your ancestors relied on to grab food before it disappeared. Long-term planning, on the other hand, relies heavily on the prefrontal cortex, a newer, slower, more effortful part of your brain, responsible for weighing consequences and thinking ahead. Under normal conditions, these two systems negotiate. But when stress rises, or a task feels boring, uncertain, or emotionally uncomfortable, the older system tends to win the negotiation instantly. Not because you're weak, because that circuitry evolved to override deliberation whenever the future starts to feel less real than the present. And here's the important part. Your deadline in 3 days doesn't feel real yet. Not the way scrolling your phone right now feels real. A researcher named Piers Steele spent years studying procrastination scientifically, reviewing hundreds of studies across different populations. His research repeatedly pointed to one key driver above almost everything else: task aversiveness, meaning how unpleasant, boring, or anxiety-inducing a task feels in the moment it needs to be started. The less appealing a task feels right now, and the further away its reward or consequence feels, the more powerfully your ancient present bias circuitry pulls you toward literally anything else from each other. This is the twist most people never realize. Procrastination isn't a failure of time management. It's a mismatch between two competing value systems that evolved millions of years apart from each other. Your instinctive brain is still living in a world of immediate scarcity, where waiting could genuinely cost you everything. Your planning brain is living in a modern world of abstract deadlines, calendars, and long-term consequences that unfold weeks or months from now. Consequences your instinctive brain has almost no evolutionary training to take seriously. So when you sit down to start that report, or study for that exam, or send that difficult email, your ancient brain isn't seeing a deadline. It's seeing an unpleasant task with no immediate reward, competing directly against an easy dopamine hit sitting right there on your phone. Guess which one usually wins? Now, here's where the Marshmallow study gets even more interesting. Because when Mischel and later researchers looked closer at which children waited longest, the winning strategy wasn't raw willpower at all. It was distraction and reframing. The children who waited longest didn't stare at the marshmallow gritting their teeth. They looked away. They imagined the marshmallow as a picture instead of a real object. They sang, played games, physically removed the temptation from their direct attention. In other words, they didn't fight their instinctive brain head on. They simply stopped feeding it ammunition. This matters enormously for how you handle your own procrastination today. Trying to overpower an urge through pure discipline puts your slow, effortful planning brain in direct conflict with a faster, more emotionally driven system built over millions of years for exactly these kinds of confrontations. That's an exhausting fight to win repeatedly, day after day. But removing temptation, shrinking a task into a smaller, less aversive first step, or making a distant reward feel closer and more concrete, works with your ancient wiring instead of against it. Have you ever noticed how starting a task is often the hardest part? But once you begin, momentum carries you forward almost effortlessly. That's not a coincidence either. The initial aversiveness Piers Steele identified is usually front-loaded. Once you're a few minutes in, The task itself often starts generating small feelings of progress and structure, immediate rewards your ancient brain finally recognizes and responds to. Think about how differently this reframes procrastination. It isn't a character flaw. It's not evidence that you're undisciplined or broken. It's a multi-100,000-year-old survival strategy. Immediate reward over abstract future reward. Firing in an environment it was never built for. Your ancestors, who grabbed available food immediately, were making the statistically smart choice in their world. You, sitting in front of a screen with an assignment due in 3 days, are running that exact same ancient program, just aimed at a target completely unrecognizable to the system running it. So, the next time you catch yourself reaching for your phone instead of opening that document, pause for a moment before judging yourself for it. That pull isn't weakness. It's an ancient survival calculation, still quietly running in the background of a very different world. The child in Mischel's study who resisted the marshmallow wasn't summoning superhuman willpower. She was quietly outsmarting her own ancient wiring, looking away, reframing, making the wait easier instead of harder. You have that exact same option available to you right now with whatever task you've been avoiding. So today, when you finally sit down to start, remember, you are not doing almost anything else because something is wrong with you. You're just a very old system meeting a very new kind of deadline.